Glad to hear you're sharing a stage with Alex Jones. I was actually on his show in April in Austin. He premiered our film, which was called We Will Not Be Silenced, which talked about our censorship for talking about COVID back in 2020. And Alex was one of the few people that was supporting us back then. And we actually premiered it at his studio the day that Trump was convicted in New York City. And then I ended up staying 3 hours on air with him as we covered that whole piece. But it's great to see Alex back on X and then just back in a massive way. Obviously, Tucker embracing him was a huge part of that. And Alex was telling me, I'm talking to Tucker, I'll be on there soon, 6 months before, and I didn't know if it was happening. And we've come a long way when it comes to independent media on platforms like X. But what I wanted to ask you about was Pennsylvania. That's your home state.
It is.
Obviously, the assassination happened in Butler. The debate just happened in Philly. You have said this is the state. And the word is, if Kamala loses it, she loses. And I'm curious, if you were the campaign strategist for, say, the Trump team, A, would you just move everyone there and go door to door for the next 56 days? B, what can you tell us about Pennsylvania? I know it's a very diverse state, but like, what are the people like? What makes them tick? And how do you think that Trump wins that state?
Well, sure. With Pennsylvania, there's a lot of different pockets of Pennsylvania. So going back to James Carville, he has the analysis that Pennsylvania is actually two states because you've got, he calls it Pennsyltucky, because you've got Philadelphia on one side, Pittsburgh on the other, and then Kentucky in the middle. Or, sometimes we'll refer to that as the T because it sort of creates a T with the rectangular shape of Pennsylvania, minus the Delaware River in New Jersey. But you do have wide swaths of it. So you've got essentially the Acela corridor, and the Acela corridor is Philadelphia and the collar counties out there. So Montgomery, Bucks, Berks, Chester, Delaware, and then Philadelphia itself. And so these are highly affluent, some of which, including the main line, are some of the most affluent in the entire country. They go up right against Beverly Hills. But at the same time, the rest of the state doesn't look like that. You then move into York County, Lancaster County, and you've got a massive Amish population. You've got a huge rural agricultural base. Then you move throughout the rest of the state, and then you get very quickly into the Appalachian Mountains. And so once you get to Schuylkill County, once you get to Harrisburg area, now you're in the mountains. Now you're talking about mining. Now you're talking about and of course, fracking is the biggest issue there now. And the further west you go, and you get to the Rust Belt areas, you get to the Pittsburgh area. Remember, Pittsburgh Steelers, right? Why did they name that? Because of the steel. So, even though, of course, I'm from Eagles country, I understand. The reason being, though, is that when the steel industry was moved out of those areas, and these are issues where J.D. Vance completely understands because he's from Donald Trump can talk to the issues of the forgotten man. J.D. Vance actually is one of them. His family are a group of people that were totally forgotten and totally lost in the mainstream media's focus on the cosmopolitan coasts. And so this idea of that these areas completely economically depressed, and again, this was all done on the backs of globalism, the globalized system of trade, where we took China and the slave labor of China and made them into the factory of the world. We divested so many of these communities from Middle America, so many of which, of course, were clustered around the Great Lakes area. So you're talking about Erie, you're talking about Chicago, you're talking about Detroit, you're talking about Milwaukee, you're talking about all of these areas, which, oh, by the way, were ones that now have become the splash point and center point of American politics because they swung for President Trump all the way back in 2016. And he has a way of connecting with these voters who are not traditional Republicans or traditional Democrats. They are working class voters. And I say this before, they vote with their wallets. In Pennsylvania, they voted for Josh Shapiro and John Fetterman. John Fetterman, I think people know, is no conservative, and yet they viewed him as better for their jobs and better for their direct livelihoods than they viewed the Republican candidate. And so they put their support behind John Fetterman. Those same people, by the way, so you've got essentially Trump Fetterman voters in Pennsylvania, which I know to a lot of people may not make any sense. But again, the only thing they care about is the economy. Everything else is by the wayside to them. What are you going to do for us? When are you going to do it? Are you going to do it now? And the idea with fracking, and the reason this has become such a flashpoint, you hear it over and over, even in the debate, I'll give them credit for at least bringing this up, is because the Marcellus Shale find in Pennsylvania around 2010 or so was when it really started coming online. This has taken those counties, those areas that were so economically depressed, and in Ohio as well, and they would in New York if the state government would allow it, even though it's completely banned. The fracking there has, and the wells that have gone up have created this economic boom in those towns that were so depressed. This is actually their God-given birthright for living in that area, to say, this is yours, you have the mineral rights. And suddenly the truckers that are able to get this stuff from point A to point B, now they're living large. Now you've got areas there where that never had a dentist office. Think of it, a town that never had a dentist office or orthodontics are now starting to open up in these areas. They're starting to come back in. So it's not just about fracking in the general sense. And I wish they talked about this a little bit more accurately, because when you're looking at that western and northern tier, the Appalachians, where the Marcellus Shale is, this is a huge political flashpoint because of the money. And so that money has the secondary effects, the tertiary effects of the economy that's being built there. But if one party is against it, that means that all of this economic opportunity, that all of this growth, of everything that's going on will be shut down. And so when you say Kamala Harris is against fracking, what you're saying is Kamala will take all your jobs away. She'll take all of this economic miracle away. She'll take all of this growth away, and she'll send you back to the rusted out era of where we were. That's why you see this as being the issue that she is terrified of playing again and again. So yes, of course, the ground game is very important. Turning Point Action is playing a huge role there. Scott Pressler with Early Vote Action, Cliff Maloney with the PHAs. These are all partners that I have and that I work with on a regular basis. But that issue of fracking, you take that and you play that video of her saying, of course I'm against fracking, and you play it again and again on every TV set and on every one of these little pieces of glass that we hold in our pockets, and you will tell them that she is going to take everything away from you and make you go back to the way things used to be, as opposed to the way things could be. And she's doing so out of this fear of the political left, the climate change agenda, and all of the Greta Thunberg and all of this insanity that comes from these various climate movements, and is doing so because, unfortunately, her party is totally beholden to it. And oh, by the way, who was it that cast the deciding vote, the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which she has now admitted on CNN, and Joe Biden also admitted was really just a watered-down version of the Green New Deal? You tie all this together, you go into Western and Northern Pennsylvania, you explain it to them, and you can flip that state faster than you can flip a Pennsylvania hotcake.
If you can explain it. And right now it's on the edge, right? We still
We're on
can't
the
call
edge.
Pennsylvania.
No, but
What about
even Nate Silver has come in, no conservative, but even Nate Silver has said that Pennsylvania is most likely what he refers to as the tipping point state of the election. That if Pennsylvania flips, then you can get enough of the Rust Belt, the Sun Belt, that's the election.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing in crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.